All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. This is the RMS trainer session designed for district administrators. The RMS Center will be presenting, and I believe the TMO is present. Did you want to say anything before we get started?
No, I think I'm good. I mean, I just see we're a little light on folks. Hopefully, we get a few more joining. Not sure, maybe the Christmas holiday time we're in might be contributing to that a bit, but just want to, with that, maybe we try to at least, really cover everything well, get it recorded, get it up on a video for folks that at least have reference to it later, and really encourage the folks who do have on to ask questions and participate and make this a good session and good video for folks to rely come back to. So with that, guys, take it away. I'm just going to listen in for the most part. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you very much. As mentioned, we will be recording the session and putting it up on our YouTube site. We'll post that link as well. I think it's also in the slides later on. But questions are definitely welcome inside of the WebEx on the bottom right-hand corner. If your screen's like mine, there's an option for Q&A. Feel free to ask away. Also, you're welcome to unmute your mic and ask questions as well. This is more of a back and forth, especially because y'all are district administrators. So if you have questions, please feel free to ask. We've got people here who are willing and able to answer.
Hello and welcome to this Train the Trainer session. Thank you all for joining us today. As mentioned, feel free to type any questions or input you may have into the Q&A section of this WebEx. We do have some RMS Support Center folks on standby to take care of those. So let's get started. So here are the topics we'll be covering today. We tried to hit some of the RMS basics for district administrators in this presentation. So we will review RMS background information for district administrators. We'll overview local office, take a look at district setup, take a look at the prime contractors in the district office and at the contract office level, quickly review contract setup at the office level, look at subcontractors, contract personnel, and a brief overview of the PII Access for RMS users. So who is this training for? This training course is designed and intended for district administrators, those who have been assigned at the district level for managing the official duties in some sphere of in an admin capacity. There are no prerequisites for this course. However, attendees are expected to be familiar with navigating RMS, entering data, and the knowledge of governing regulations. Attendees should expect to gain a deeper understanding of how RMS works, why RMS works the way it does, and gain an insight on how to teach their fellow RMS users. So now I will hand it over to you some RMS background information for you all.
All right, check 1, 2. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right, copy that. So this part of the training will attempt to pull back the curtain on some of the more esoteric natures of RMS. So as district admins, the RMS general user population will kind of look to you for guidance in all facets regarding RMS, from general rules to report creation to the back-end intricacies of RMS. So as such, our goal for this part of the training is to equip you with the skills to assist in troubleshooting and resolving some of the more repeated issues. Next slide, please. So RMS utilizes industry standard tooling, which includes Microsoft .NET Framework and Oracle database infrastructure on the back end, and that's implemented by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. RMS is considered a critical enterprise AIS and is used by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to support the resident management system mission. And this particular mission encompasses the work processes, procedures, and technology used in the Corps field offices, area resident and project offices through the use of system designed and developed to assist resident engineers in their work through multiple daily activities. And these daily activities can include submittal processing, modification processing, payments, QC, and QA. RMS streamlines the authoring and tracking of correspondence. In addition, RMS 3 provides robust storage, organization, and signing of attachments. So those are just a few of the things that RMS can do on the back end there. Next slide. RMS support usually gets many high-level questions regarding RMS components and generally what it does or what are some of the touch points that are accessible. And this can be shown through the RMS components slide. Underneath each component heading, you'll see a few listings of touching points and what actions RMS can perform. So under each one of those, you'll definitely be able to relay these to your users so that they can gain some insight as to what RMS can do. So I created this RMS management component slide to assist you when answering certain questions from a higher level. Next slide. RMS is configured to operate in a separation of concerns model, and the goal of separation of concerns is to separate an application into units within minimal overlapping between individual units. And this is achieved through modularization, encapsulation, and arrangement in a client and server layers. This means that RMS has a client application that accesses a server, and you can see that by the RMS Users icon there on the screen. And essentially, when that goes ahead and accesses a particular server, that server is what passes back the results from a business objects, which operate on the client requests, and that happens in the background. For security reasons, the RMS database resides behind the ACID firewalls and are thus inaccessible to RMS Web API as a whole. That's where the clients connect to. And in order to operate in this type of environment, RMS utilizes a typical client-server communication model with a conduit to pass data in and out between RMS 3 resources that exist behind the ACID firewall and the publicly accessible Web API. So all data passing outside the firewall is encrypted and provided only to authenticated users. So a client sends a request to the Web API, and you can see the Web API from the left side there. You'll see RMS Users, and they'll send a request to that server that has like a little world around it. That is the Web API portion. And once the client sends a request to the Web API server, then it gets rerouted, and the package conduit goes ahead, which is either going to be the cache DB or the message queue. And one of the sync request processors will pick up that data package to work on it, and then completes the request by sending the encrypted result set back to the Web API. The Web API then provides the response back to the requesting client. Now, keep in mind that sometimes outages may occur that is beyond our control since we function behind the US ACID system. So we often must engage with CEIT to resolve some of those particular outages. So rest assured, we are working as fast as we can with our counterparts to ensure that the issues get troubleshooted and they get resolved as fast as possible. We do put out all of the information to notify you of any issues that are going to be going on or that are happening or any potential outages. So if there's ever any question, please don't hesitate to send us a message to our support team, and we'll make sure that you get the notification back that you need in order to disperse that to your users. Next slide. When users run RMS, it is done by first running the RMS launcher, and the launcher checks the RMS servers for the latest update and then automatically updates the software to the latest patch. Next slide. Now, on occasion, the users may see an error indicating resource connection issues as noted in the slide. If the user is getting this error, the first thing to check is the patch level the user is running. There are a few reasons why a patch level could be out of date. The first is because their shortcut is pointing to the client instead of the launcher. And because the launcher is not being run, the launcher is never checked for updates. So it never reaches out to the API to download the latest update. This can be verified by checking the shortcut location, which we'll discuss further in a future slide. Another reason the user can be out of date on a patch is they may never close their RMS application. Or they may access RMS infrequently. In either case, again, the launcher did not get a chance to check for and provide the user with the newest update, and they are now behind in patch updates. However, this can be fixed easily by just updating the launcher when it runs. It'll just go ahead and download the patch. We will show this a little bit later in the training. The last common issue for government users is when the RMS client application was not installed via the app portal. In that case, the government user, the RMS folder as a whole does not have the proper permissions for the RMS launcher to install the newest patch in the RMS 3 folder. This can be fixed by having the user reinstall RMS via the app portal, and we will explore this a little bit later as well. Next slide. One other thing we want to touch on is that if you run the RMS client and you are having trouble getting in, there is an area available to you to check where your connection is failing. The ability to check is under the server connections screen, which can be found by clicking the server connections button located on the lower left quadrant of the RMS 3 login screen. And I see we're on one.
There you go.
Yeah, there we go. Great. Thank you. I was looking, I was saying, oh, on the wrong slide. Okay, perfect. Once on the screen, click on the Start Test button, and you can look at the connection test results to see how long it took the computer to connect to and receive a response for the specified server. The Web API, WPC, or CPC servers are then checked to see if connection is viable. This will give you insight into where the issue is occurring, so that if you call in to speak with a support team member, the information provided them will assist in filling in the necessary details for troubleshooting. Next slide. All right. One of the issues that was mentioned earlier was regarding the path for the RMS icon that is being clicked. So if the shortcut is on the taskbar, right click on the RMS icon, then right click again on the RMS icon, then left click on properties, and the RMS 3 properties dialog will be displayed, which will give you the ability to ensure the target and the start in boxes match what is being displayed here. If it does not, then please update it to make sure that it matches. To apply the changes, click on the apply button after updating, and then click on OK to have the user run the RMS client application again. And doing this will start the download of the newest patch for RMS if the checks are indicated that a patch is required. All right, next slide. If you're a government user, then you know that all software installed on the computer must be downloaded and installed through the government app portal. So you can visit the app portal at https://app-portal.usa.army.mil/ESD as noted in the slide, and then navigate to the most current RMS client, which at the time of this recording is USA's RMS Launcher 3.0.0.31. Choose that option, then choose to add to cart. Afterward, click on the cart and choose the target location. Now, this part is pretty important. It's important that the users who have gotten a new computer, if they're doing this particular process, at the time of this option, the computer name may not match. So they might need to verify that the computer that they're going to have it installed to is the proper computer. So to do that, they'll open the system information on the user's computer and check that the system name matches the ME on the machine. If it does not, then choose Search for People on Computers to find the correct system name, and that will get RMS installed on the correct machine. Next slide. Here we'll discuss how you can help your users get the RMS launcher updated if their RMS client application is out of date. Please note that only do this if RMS is already installed on a user's computer. This is for the government. Also, there is a link for contractors as well. So just make sure that you're downloading the government focused icon. As of this recording, the current version of the RMS launcher is 31. Keep that in mind. The version of the launcher is not the same as the patch version of RMS. So if RMS is not already installed on the user's computer, the government users will need to get it from the app portal as mentioned in the previous slide, while contractors will download it from the website. The process should be easy to follow. Navigate to where the file was saved, right click on it, then choose Extract All, select the location to save the file, and then click on Extract. Next slide. After the user has extracted the files, you'll then be able to run the RMS launcher setup gov31.exe, which is the latest version available at the time of this recording. File and follow the prompts as they're shown within this slide. Keep in mind that the contractors have their own version of the RMS application called RMS Launcher Setup KTR31.exe. So that's something to keep in mind if the government person is downloading, just make sure that they're downloading their Gov31. And you will need to have them navigate to that appropriate download link for their launcher as well. All right, next slide. All right, so that concludes this section, just taking a look at the back end of RMS. So hopefully that certain gaps. So we'll open it up for questions right now. Over.
Feel free to speak and unmute yourself if you have any questions. Meanwhile, we did have 2 questions come in on the Q&A section on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. The launcher version in the slides, you'll notice there's a difference between some of the launcher versions. The real old one that we've used for a long time was version 29. It took us a long time to get version 30 approved with the apps portal. 31 is the latest copy. I've had some government users tell me that they can only find 29 on the apps portal, or they can only find 30, or they can only find 31. So it's not super consistent, but just to let you know, if you have anything that's, I think 29 auto updates, I know 30 auto updates and 31 auto updates, the launcher auto updates, but as long as you get the app portal installation of RMS initially, that gives you as a government user on your government computer full access to your RMS 3 folder on your computer. So you can go to the RMS website, download the government launcher, and install it like the slides show. But you first have to get the app portal version of RMS. For contractors, it's assumed they have admin rights to their local computer, so it really doesn't matter, if they don't have to run the apps portal, right? And if you have a personal computer, and you install RMS on that, and you've got a CAT card reader, just install the contractor version of that on your computer. You can use the government mode on that and connect to RMS that way. So hopefully that answers those questions. But the big difference between government mode and contractor mode is just who has permissions to write to the C program files RMS 3 folder. The government launcher assumes you don't have admin rights. Contractor launcher assumes you've got admin rights. That's the only difference. It's the same application between the two. And obviously the later version of the launcher has more code in it to help with outages, to help smooth out network communication and updates and whatnot. So if you do have version 29, you start up RMS yourself, you see 29, just go to rms.usa.army.mil, download the government launcher, give that a run. You should be on 31 after that. Any questions before we move on to the next part?
So next, we will take a look at the local office, and as an overview, we will be reviewing the office documents, local office milestones, and local office contract archive modules. This information in the local office menu is information that impacts each office in the district, and that information can be viewed and managed here. Only office administrators can edit the data for their respective office in this menu. So next, we will take a look at the Office Documents module. This module can be used to store any local work documents for the offices. These documents can be used to store logistics, such as what is listed in the slide. These documents will be made available for all the contracts within the office after being added here. This area is especially helpful when generated letters and document packages are used by the contract. Templates for those generated letters and documents can be added here. Next, we'll take a look at the local office milestones. So there are occasions where you're going to want to add specific milestones to every contract in the office based on whichever milestones are determined in the contract schedules or contract requirements. Listed are the different types of milestones shown in this module. You can add, edit, and or delete from this view. And of course, there are the blue sort tiles at the top to narrow down your search. In this view, you'll see both local and system milestones, as you can see here. Please note that the system milestones can only be viewed. Those cannot be changed. They can also not be deleted. They're really just there for your reference. To add a new milestone, you can choose from creating a new one entirely or copying a milestone created in another office, as shown here. So you would select the office and select the milestones you'd like to copy over. When adding a new milestone, different settings like choosing the coordinating phase for the milestone, the event time, if it should be added to new contracts, choosing to allow deletion of the contract, etc., can be configured here. Settings for the listed milestones can also be edited in the grid by using these checkboxes made available. Moving on to the local office contract archive. This list shows both archived and unarchived contracts in the office. Only those contracts from RMS 3.0 though, not from RMS 2.38. Please contact the help desk with any assistance with RMS 2.38 contracts. Office administrators will only have access to the contracts within their respective offices. Later on, we will also review how to archive a contract, how to unarchive and export contract files. As it relates to the district office, that will be reviewed later in this presentation, but that process is going to be the same for this area as well. Okay, so that was our quick overview of the local office. So we will open up the floor for any further questions any of you may have. Checking the Q&A section, I don't see any there, so I'll just wait a couple of seconds and then we can move on. All right. So next up, we will take a look at district setup basics for district administrators. To start, we'll begin with adding users to RMS. To add users to RMS, you can do this in the RMS staff module. Access to this module is limited to only system and district administrators as well. So now we'll go through the process of adding a user to RMS so that they can log in and access contracts. When you click the Add button, This dialog will come up. Begin by typing in the RMS ID for the user. If the user will be working with sending payments to CFMs, it is very important that their RMS ID matches their login credentials in the CFMS database for the contract. Usually this will be their UPass ID in all caps. This is important because if their RMS ID doesn't match CFMS, they will not be able to send payments to CFMS from within RMS. For users without a CAC, you can enter a unique alphanumeric identifier as the RMS ID. And then you can continue to add their name, the abbreviated name, and the work phone if needed. Though the email address field is only required for non-CAC logins, it is best practice to enter this email address for CAC holders as well, just for record-keeping purposes. To select an office and position title, you can click on these two lookup fields. We will also review how to add a position title if one is not available that is desired. We'll review that later in this presentation. This slide reviews the checkboxes available here for the staff record. So we have the inactive staff member checkbox. We do recommend using this checkbox rather than deleting a user. Deleting a user may impact existing data input by the user, so it is recommended to just check this checkbox if you'd like to remove a staff member from RMS. And we have the support staff member from another district, division, or headquarters. Will this person be a district point of contact for the RMS tech support? Will this user receive emails regarding RMS updates and news? And finally, the last checkbox can be selected if the user should have no access to government estimates on the change request register. Okay, next you can also add signature blocks for the user here. Multiple signature blocks can be added if you would like, or if the user would like, and those will be available at the time of signing documents. Okay, in the screen at the bottom, the district administrator rights can be granted fully, or they can be restricted by selecting these checkboxes down at the bottom. District administrators are automatically assigned the same authority as full office administrators, unless otherwise restricted by using these checkboxes. If the user needs read-only access to the district, this can be accomplished by checking the district-wide read-only checkbox. And if the user just needs to run summary reports without any additional access to contract or library data, then the summary reports checkbox can be checked. Next, for office admin rights, to see the list of offices, check this Show All Offices checkbox. Please note that when full office administrator rights are granted, the office administrator rights will show as full here, and then whenever it's restricted by using these checkboxes, it will show as partial in the staff record for the user. Okay, and now district rights. Again, to see the list of offices, check on this Show All Offices checkbox. This area can be used to grant, this is not district access. This is contract access, my apologies. Access can be granted to all contracts within an office, a group of contracts, or individually selected contracts, where you will select those in this screen. You can select the office and the user role. If the user role is only intended for specific contracts, select this radio button, and then a list of contracts will show up and you can make the desired selections. Please note that one role must be explicitly assigned to each individual office where the employee will need access. Now, for district-wide access, the user can be granted district-wide access here by checking this radio button. and then you will select a contractor user role here. Please note, if no selection is made here, no rights will have been granted to the user for the district until a contract user role is selected, as shown here. Those rights with that user role will be granted to the user. Otherwise, nothing will be granted to the user until a selection is made. Okay, and then you can click on the link staff record once all the information and rights have been set up to make the user officially recognizable to RMS. The user's DoD ID on the back of his or her CAC will be needed here. Once this has been completed, the staff record will have been linked to the user and they will be able to log in with the corresponding credentials recorded in this staff record. Now, to enable non-CAC login, you can click on the Enable Non-CAC Login button and then enter an email address. Please note, for this to work, the user must have an account created in RMS with the email address used here. And upon completion of the staff record, the user will be able to log into RMS and access whatever has been specified here in the staff record. Okay, so just a quick break for any questions if you all have any.
The only comment that I would make, feel free to ask your question if you have one, so don't let me talk and prevent you from asking a question. The only comment I'd make is that while it is best practice to have the RMS user ID match the UPass, if you have a new hire that has a CAT card, they do not have to have a UPass ID in order to get access to RMS 3. So you can take their CAT card and give them access to RMS 3 immediately without having them get a UPass account. In most cases, they do have a UPass account, but if they don't, you can make that RMS ID whatever you want it to be. So you don't have to make it the UPass. But for the older CFMs links and those who do have UPass IDs, it's best practice to put that, L1, whatever account number in there if you have it for LA District, for example. Had some questions or comments about the situations where, RMS admins, you often deal with people who go to other districts overseas, or they'll retire and they'll come back. Oftentimes, from what we've seen, the RMS district admins will go in and create a new account. And sometimes those people will have the same CAT card. So you'll have the situation where you have two accounts with the same CAT card number. And that can be problematic because when they try to log in, they can't choose which one they log in as. So sometimes going in and deleting the old account, which, by the way, doesn't actually delete it. It does go through and undo a lot of stuff. That will remove the CAT card assignment to the old account. Whereas if you just mark them inactive, it doesn't necessarily remove the CAT card assignment to that account. There's also an issue where rarely you can go in and it won't remove the credentials from the old account. If that happens, just contact the RMS Support Center. Tell them, hey, I've got a stuck account with two different accounts for one person, and we can go in there and fix it as well. You can also go into the staff record and hit the unlink CAC on the screen, and that will also remove the CAT card assignment from the old account. But yeah, so there's three things you can do there. And if you can't get it to work, let us know and we can help you out.
To add to that, I have had issues with the unlinking action before where that won't remove the association either. Like there was one where we tried unlinking the old account, didn't work until we clicked that quote unquote delete button.
Yeah, and I've seen that too. So if that happens, yeah, delete. So back in the old days when you deleted an account, it actually used to remove it. Headquarters, I cannot remember. This was like 2-3 years ago. They came out with a directive. Nobody can be deleted from RMS. So when you delete them, it still runs through some extra routines that inactive doesn't do, but it just puts them on a list that says, hey, you're deleted, but it keeps them there. If you run into that problem where you have two accounts and the guy's logging in and it's clear it's not logging into the new account, you can go in and delete the account if you have the rights, correct? You have to be a district administrator to do this, and it will remove the cat card assignment. And or if you can't do that, feel free to contact the RMS Support Center. But yeah, delete's handy in that aspect too. Very, very good comment. All righty. Any other questions? If not, we can move on. Cool.
All right. All right, now moving on from setting up users, we will start looking at the district office. This menu will allow district administrators to view and manage information relating to all the offices within the district. Starting with the district office module within, the district office module within the district office menu. In this module, the district office information can be added or edited and kept up to date and accurate. This area is beneficial for knowing who to contact for district policies and procedures. Next, the position titles. These are used in the staff record as we reviewed previously. If you have a list of predetermined positions that you'd like to add, those can be added here in this module. And it just requires a position title. Those position titles listed here can be edited and deleted or deleted as well if needed. Next, we will look at the contract user roles. This is also important for staff records as we reviewed earlier. There are two tabs in this screen. One is going to be for the user roles in the district, and the other one is going to list the staff members and the corresponding user role in the district. So there are 3 levels of access for each contract user role, and those can be edited here by the drop downs. So the yellow check marks are going to be read-only access. The green check marks will be full read and write access. And finally, the red X represents no access at all. You can simplify that within the contract user role by assigning all to either no access, read only, or read and write. So deleting a user role, before a role can be deleted, all the affected users must be assigned to a different role before that role can be deleted. So next up, the district policy module, lots of information here. So the values entered here automatically populate in all the new contracts. Due to the impact that these settings have on all of the field offices within a district, it really is best to set these in the beginning of the district setup and make changes as minimally as possible after that. Because again, any changes made here will impact all the field offices within the district. One option we'd like to highlight here is if you would like to include accruals in monthly placement, that can be selected here. And this module is separated by 3 tabs, the district policy as we've reviewed here, and the mod policy and submittal policy tabs. So the mod policy tab, this section appears in these requirements appear in change requests, in the status/funding tab, change requests. Requirements of the mod sections can be set here and will initially appear this way with new additions within all contracts. And now in the submittal policy tab, these values can be set as defaults for the contract. Set the values that are most often used if they differ from the defaults already set here. Contract settings can be edited whenever its specifications have different requirements. So changes made here will not have as much of an impact on the data in the field offices. So please feel free to change this as needed, of course. Values here can be set within individual contracts, so making the selections here will just begin any new contracts with these settings as a default. And if needed, they can be changed. Next, the dredge names module. Please refer to any local policies for guidance in this module. It is best practice to enter these names, especially for record keeping purposes. You can add, edit, and delete dredge names and determine if they are government owned by using this checkbox. As a default, this checkbox will automatically be selected. Now, the archived contracts module. So this is similar to the local office contract archive, except this is going to be contracts within the district listed here rather than simply an office. Please note, again, if the contract was archived in RMS 2.38, it will not show in this list. Please contact the RMS Support Help Desk to ask for assistance with any contracts that may be like that. Also, please be cautious of this select all checkbox. I think it's rare that you would like to archive all. So just make sure that you're careful with that. There are checkboxes below it to select each contract as needed. Okay, so there are two ways to archive a contract. From contract selection, you can click this archive button, which will bring up a contract lookup screen. And you can also click on the archive a contract button here in the archived contracts module within the district office menu. Make sure to use checkboxes in this dialog for the contract lookup as well, rather than just selecting the line. That won't work for selecting. Also, please note that on average, it will take 1 to 2 days to archive a regular size contract. If someone tries to access that contract while it's being archived, this window will show. Once the process has been completed, the contract will be removed from the contract list in contract selection and now show in this list here within the district office. And to unarchive a contract, go to the Archived Contracts module, select Contract, and click on the Archive button, and then follow the prompts until completion. Okay, so only users have the ability, with district administration rights, will have the ability to export archived contract files. Additional data checks are performed during this process as well. Contractor payroll and labor interview related document package files may contain PII. So if they do not contain any PII, then this information may be exported. If there are no files in the contract file of the archived contract, when the download completes, no files will be displayed. Next, we'll take a look at a rather new module in the district office menu. This is going to be the security classification module. This was just released a couple of patches ago, I think. This is where district administrators can address the CUI requirements for contracts within the district and do that in multiple contracts at a time rather than individually. CUI within contract setup will also be reviewed later. So here in the screen, district administrators have the ability to set the CUI statuses of multiple contracts rather than going into each individual contract and selecting the CUI status that way. So you can choose, you can leave it as none to represent no CUI or non-CUI contract. And you can also select whole or in part for determining if CUI is on the contract as a whole or only in part. And like I said, that will be reviewed more in contract setup later. Okay, so are there any questions for that section?
I have a kind of complicated one, and let me know if this is too complicated, but that setting you showed on including accruals for placement, do you know specifically if I would check? So we actually have that unchecked in our district. If I check that, do you know specifically where that would affect data? I have a feeling we probably turned it off because we weren't sure where those information pieces were going. So I don't know if you can speak to that or not.
I'm not sure if I can. I'm going to ask Paul or Boz to help with that one. As the slide shows, though, when the setting is checked, summary and contract reports will include accruals in the calculations for those.
Okay, so I guess maybe my confirmation would be then this is not pushing to any of the modules, but only reports that I print out that pull that placement data from those placement modules, I would assume.
I'm not sure. I will defer.
Yeah. So we'll probably need help from Boz on this one, but yeah, I believe that's just on the reports. Boz, do you know inside of district policy or any of the other RMS admins, the accruals for placement, when you check that box, include accruals in monthly placement, that's on the summary report level, I think. Let me see if I can find out. Give me 1 second here. While I'm looking that up, just a quick comment on the so I'm looking up that question. I'm actually asking a few people. Just a quick comment on the archived contracts. The requirement for archived contracts is something like 10 years in the past, right? So most of the archived contracts are going to be 3.0 contracts unless they were active inside of the districts. So also to note, downloading the files is heavily dependent on your local internet connection. So if you're in a resident office with very poor internet connection, downloading a contract that's got gigs of files on it might not be the best option. You might want to go to a place that has good internet connection with your government laptop and try that. You all know that you do not have to be on the VPN to connect to RMS government mode, right? So you can connect to any Wi-Fi with your government computer without being on the VPN, start up RMS, pop in your CAT card. Well, obviously you have to pop in your CAT card to log in, and then log into RMS that way. That'll greatly speed up your connection to RMS. But specifically, those contracts, when you do download them, it can take a while to download them because some of those contracts, for example, we had the district administrator for Seattle District go in, and he went in and archived 100 contracts to test it out for us. And while it did go through and download them all, it took a while. It didn't take more than it was like a handful of days. Some of those contracts that he had too were really old contracts from before 2.38 existed. So some of those contracts had gigs and gigs of photo data, PDF attachments, and whatnot. So just keep that in mind. It can take a long time depending on the size of the contract. Let's see here. As far as the I do not know that. I think we'll have to get back to you on that one for the accruals. That is a very good question. So your comment about
I was
that.
just saying.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was saying what we'll end up doing is the next the trainer that we'll be doing will go into more depth with the accruals. So we'll discuss that more during that training.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Great question. Thank you.
Okay, are there any further questions? All right, So we will move on and start looking at prime contractor setup. Specifically for this section, we will be looking at that in the district office. Prime contractors directly work with the government and they manage any subcontractors and are responsible for ensuring that the work is completed as it's defined in the contract. Generally, the contractor is responsible for planning, leading, executing, supervising, and inspecting a building construction project. This responsibility extends from the beginning to the end of the project, regardless of its scope. To become a prime contractor, contractors must first register their business with System for Award Management and be awarded a contract. So in the prime contractors module within the district office, a prime contractor can be added here once they have registered with sam.gov, which that will be reviewed later. And then after they are added in the district office, they can be associated to individual contracts. A list of all the prime contractors available to be added to contracts can be found in the district office prime contractors module. In this list, you'll see the prime contractor ID, the contractor name, the UEI number, cage code, and then the city and the state for each contractor. So to add to this list and begin prime contractor setup, just click on the add button and enter the name of the prime contractor in the dialog. And this name entered here will be the short name for the prime contractor. And we'll see that in this next screen. So this contractor short name, that will be whatever is entered in the previous dialog box. So some of this information can be filled out before the prime contractor is added to any contract, so within this district office menu, and some information can be entered within the contract itself by the contractor, like the home office information. The UEI number, the cage code, and the NAICS, or the North American Industry Classification System code, will be entered here if available. And at the bottom of the screen, contracts linked to the prime contractor are listed in this tab. The other tab is for any contractor staff that is associated with the prime contractor. Usually the district administrator setting up the prime contractor will add the first staff member and add them as the first administrator for the contract. If you're looking to delete a prime contractor, please make sure that this section here, the contract section, is empty and that the prime contractor is not linked to any other contracts before moving forward with deletion. So as I mentioned previously, if you need any assistance finding information for the prime contractor, you can go to this link here on the slide to sam.gov and search for the contractor entity, and that information will be made available there. The contractor organization does need to be registered in sam.gov with either an active or inactive registration before trying to set them up in RMS. If you have any questions about UEIs or the recent UEI number transition from DUNS, I think that was back in April. There is a lot of helpful information on the sam.gov site, especially in the frequently asked questions sections. And there are other resources available at fsd.gov. And you can also make some calls to fsd.gov or create a ticket or engage in a live chat on that site. You can also send any questions you have directly to the General Services Administration at entityvalidation@gsa.gov. So after setting up the prime contractor in the district office, we will take a look at how those are dealt with within the contract itself. So once the prime contractor has been set up in the district office, it can now be added to contracts, back out of the district office to the contract selection view, open the contract, and under the administration tab, you will find the prime contractor submodule. Upon opening this submodule, this screen will display. This module does exist in both government and contractor mode. However, data in the second section and down are primarily entered by the government. This top section here cannot be entered by the contractor. This is government entry only. And so now we'll take a closer look at some of the fields and buttons in this top section. First, the prevent contractor mode access. This prevents the contractor from accessing contractor mode for this contract. This is used whenever there's a dispute, termination, or other reason to prevent access. This copy UEI and contractor information will pull the information from the district office where it was entered for the prime contractor and enter it into the contract here. The responsibility code for a prime contractor is always going to be PRIM, and this cannot be changed. Okay, and the payee office information comes directly from CFIMS. If an address does not show up when looking in this lookup field, users will need to go into CFIMS to enter that information, then perform a CFIMS download and try updating the payee office again. Okay, next, the contractor staff. This is similar to the contractor staff tab within the prime contractors module in the district office menu. So any staff assigned to the prime contractor will have access to the contracts that the prime contractor is assigned to, and that will be shown in this tab. As we covered earlier, it's usually the job of the USACE representative to assign, or the district administrator, to assign the first contractor staff and make them an administrator. From that point forward, the prime contractor themselves can add additional staff to the prime contractor staff tab and assign any user roles needed. If the prime contractor you are looking for does not show up in the list of prime contractors, then they must be added to the district office as reviewed previously. All right, any questions on contractor setup, whether it be in the district office or within the contract itself?
All right. While you all are thinking of questions, real quick, we went in and checked the code behind that option in the district library. And the code behind that placement option affects both the placement in the contract as well as the report. But just an FYI, okay. We plan on covering that much more deeply in the next Train the Trainer. Or I guess. And go ahead.
I was going to say, so when you say placement, you need specifically the placement module, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
so not like
yeah, correct. The actual and scheduled placement. Okay. Right. Yeah.
Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah. So that module and the placement schedule, I believe. Now, as we all know, those modules are very sensitive and they have thousands of things that can affect them. So yeah.
Yep. Good to know. Thanks.
All right. Cool.
Okay, if there are no questions regarding the prime contractors, we will move on to contract setup at the office level, at the contract office level. So contract setup can be found in the same place that you can find the prime contractor submodule. It is also within the administration module, and it consists of these 6 tabs. So it's going to be administration/funding, payment/modifications, quality assurance, submittals/schedule, dredging, and finally CY. So starting with the administration / funding tab. This tab is used to determine how the contract will be administratively managed and how RMS allocates progress payments to the contract's approved funding sources. Use these checkboxes in the administration section to configure what information will be collected. Okay, next, the payment / modifications tab. In this tab, it shows information which is pulled directly from CFUMS if the contract is actually linked to CFUMS. Since the payment term information in the obligations for payments section comes directly from CFUMS, that information can only be edited in CFUMS. ACO and CO modifications parameters should be determined in the contract as well. So you can place a check mark in these boxes to activate the provisions of the selected statement. Progress payments allow additional earnings not included in activity earnings and include all activities on prompt payment document. The selections made here will also populate in blocks 6 and 7 in the SF30 for modifications. Next is the Quality Assurance tab. The QA team responsible for day-to-day monitoring of the contract can be determined here, and the QA daily report type, measurement units, and border wall contract parameters can be identified also. The next section will be for determining the number of days in the month that adverse weather could have an impact on the work progress. This should be determined in the actual contract, but this is just a prediction so that RMS can accurately calculate certain modules as it relates to QA daily reports and weather delays. These values aren't absolutes. This is just used to determine whether the contractor is due an extension due to unusually severe weather. Next, the submittals / schedule tab, which has 4 sections. When the contractor only has one submittal register, it will just be named main register and be numbered 01. More may be added here if desired. Due dates for submittal items can be specified here as well as review periods and the default government reviewer. In the schedules section, this is where the schedule type for the contract can be selected. So you have the option of import early and late start / finish dates from the contractor's network analysis system. This is used on most contracts, so it's going to base those dates off of the schedule that's been imported by the contractor. And then the second option, or I guess really the first option, manually enter schedule start / finish dates. And that's, I think, very straightforward. You can just manually enter those dates. And finally, the weather modification section. You can specify a submittal item to be the default item associated with weather modifications here. And this tends to differ from district to district. For example, in one district, the adverse weather clause may be in this section, and in another district, it may be a completely different section. So RMS allows users to customize the specification for that here. This tab only applies to contracts specifically identified as dredging contracts. Check that top checkbox for track dredging in RMS for this contract to enable all of the features below it. If it is left unchecked, no further action is needed. If the contract is a dredging contract, the DIS and/or IFB number can be entered here if that is available. Those are not required entries, but go ahead and enter those if known. And also a waterway can be selected from the lookup provided. At the bottom section, the dredging reports, you can specify the types of QC daily reports for the contractor to complete. And finally, the CUI tab. This is relatively new. This tab is used to address contracts, CUI, or controlled unclassified information requirements. Basic guidance is provided in the text below here. And this guidance is going to come from the DoD Instruction 5200.48, otherwise known as the DoD's official CUI implementation policy. So if the contract does contain CUI, you'll just select this yes button. If not, you'll select the no button and move on. If yes is selected, this statement right here, this contract contains CUI, required CUI controls must be followed, will be added to the header on all the screens underneath the contract information. Also, when you select yes, another prompt will appear to specify if the contract is CUI as a whole or only in part. Also available in this screen when yes is selected is this checkbox here. Check here to change the default CUI markings. You can select this checkbox and this text box to the right of it will become editable, and you can change the security markings that will print on reports here if the contract requires. The default will be as shown, all in caps, controlled unclassified information. There was a brown bag webinar that we recently held specifically for all of this CUI information. So if you'd like to check that out, please visit the RMS YouTube channel. We also provided a link on the references slide of this presentation. All right, are there any questions about contract setup? All right, so we will go ahead and begin again with the subcontractors submodule, which can also be found within the administration module. Once prime contractor's information is set up, they are free to work on the subcontractor information. So the prime contractor is responsible for the control and coordination of subcontractors. The subcontractors submodule is where the prime contractor can maintain the subcontractors for the job site by tracking their performance and compliance on the job site to meet contract requirements. Something to keep in mind is that the subcontractors module is linked to various modules within RMS 3.0, such as daily reports and pay activities. This means that RMS will not allow the deletion of subcontractors until all links to that subcontractor have been removed. One common issue with contracts that import data using an SDEF file are duplicate subcontractors. This happens because the information in the contractor's scheduling software does not match what was entered in RMS, and the wrong subcontractor is linked here, the correct subcontractor is linked there. So it's best to make sure that the subcontractor information and responsibility codes match what is in the contractor's scheduling software. Okay, again, and to add a subcontractor, just click on this add button as seen in a lot of selection views in RMS, and it will prompt the user for a four-digit contractor code. All right, the contractor is fill out all the required information on this view, which is very similar to the prime contractor edit view. So all the naming information, address, trade, phone information, and the amount assigned to the contract can be entered here. Once all the information is filled out for the subcontractor, they can start generating payrolls. The first date on site must be entered and the payrolls required checkbox must be checked. So again, this is just a reminder to make sure to enter the payrolls ending day of the week. Note that if the setting for the payroll ending day of week is changed in the middle of the contract, the contractor payroll dates may appear to have duplicates. RMS recalculates the dates that this contractor's payroll is due. This happens when the payroll has already been submitted to the government, but ending on the day of the week is changed from a Saturday to a Sunday. In this case, users would see a submitted payroll date plus a draft payroll date the day before or after. Okay, and to delete a subcontractor, as mentioned previously, please make sure that there are no links to the subcontractor. If there are, you will not be able to delete the subcontractor. Any questions on subcontractors?
And oh yeah, we already answered your question. Yep. Case sensitive. Thank you. Sorry. Question about the responsibility code, if that's case sensitive or not. And yes. Yes, it is.
Got it. All right. If there are no further questions regarding subcontractors, we will get into contract personnel. Okay, so typically the district administrator adds, edits, and deletes contract user roles in RMS. Those administrators have contract user role read/write permissions for all contracts within the district. Office administrators have read and write permission for all contracts attached to their office and have no access to contracts at other offices unless otherwise provided. District administrators typically add, edit, and remove the project delivery team or PDT members to and from each contract and assigns the appropriate user roles. Any user with the assign user roles -office permission can assign user roles inside the contract for the office, and any user with the district-wide permission with the assign user roles -district or contract user roles permission can also assign user roles inside the contract. Please contact the district if you have any questions about this process and/or the contract user role process. Along with the last few modules we've reviewed, contract personnel can also be found within administration from the contract menu. Here is where you can assign contract user roles inside the contract. There are two different parts to the screen. The top part lists the project delivery team or PDT members, and these can be added, edited, or deleted there. The bottom part lists the contract personnel and their assigned contract user roles as set up in the RMS staff module. Next, these are the steps for adding a PDT member. Delivery teams typically include those professionals involved in programming, planning, design, and construction of the project. The size and the composition of the project team will vary depending on the extent of the capital design, the construction budget, and the various facets of the project. This will usually all be dictated by the project owner. If a PDT member just needs to be edited, you can double-click on the member and select it, or select it and click on the edit button. The staff member and the position title can be edited from there. Deletion is also pretty straightforward in that you can select the PDT member and click on the delete button. Using the back button will save all of the changes that you make. So any questions regarding contract personnel and adding and defining contract user roles? Okay, I don't see any in the Q&A section. So we will move on to our final section, PII Access for RMS users. We'll just touch on the PII Access for RMS users, where that is going to be, and how to deal with that. So in order to access any information that may contain PII or personally identifiable information, users must have up-to-date PII training completed. So those areas in RMS are going to be the contractor payrolls, labor interviews, and the labor folder and payrolls within contract file, as well as PII documents that may be in exported contract files. If the user has a CAC, this training is maintained automatically through the yearly UPass required training. But if the user does not have a CAC, then there must be coordination with the PII district administrator to enter a UPass expiration date into the user staff record in the RMS staff tab. So again, here are the modules that may contain personally identifiable information. Access to these modules are limited due to them perhaps containing PII. So the role of the PII administrator is to make sure that yearly PII training is properly maintained. The only way to become a PII administrator is to get approval to do so. The administrator will validate the documentation requested from the user and enter the expiration date into RMS right here. The PII expiration dates will only show for government users where the Enable Non-CAC Login button has been selected and everything has been completed for that. Pictured above is the view of a user's staff record showing the PII, well, the PII expiration date to be entered there. And this will just bring up a calendar where you can select the icon and set the date. When the PII training has expired or has not been taken by the user, this message will display letting them know that. And this will be the same for both CAC and non-CAC users. So for non-CAC users who need access to all of those modules that may contain PII, they will get notifications for PII training expiration dates when the expiration date is 30, 15, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1 day prior to the expiration date. So lots of notifications coming through if expiration is looming. This training will need to be completed to access any of those modules since they may contain PII. If the expiration date passes, the user access to those modules will be revoked. And are there any questions regarding PII and the access to RMS?
All right, so question about, is there a list of who the PII district administrators are? So we're looking in our files to see if we have a copy. The previous PMO had a list of PII admins on their SharePoint. I'm not sure if that list is still active or not. if you guys are on, we might need to work with you on that one. But if we find it, we'll send it to you.
Yeah, perfect. And I guess my other question would just be, I think who we had on our list previously, we actually shifted a bunch of people, and I don't think they're actually like main POCing RMS Entry anymore. So I might need
Got
to
it.
shift the people that are in Omaha district. But I guess I also wanted to ask if there was consideration for maybe allowing more. I know I have one particular admin at an office that we have a lot of email account users that she sets up for that particular office, and it would be helpful to be able to have, her specifically have that privilege as well as like someone at the district level, just because that she does a lot of in processing. So I guess I would ask too if there is consideration for maybe having a more than one or two.
Got it. Yeah. I think that's something we'll probably approach the current TMO about. That's a very good question. If let's see here, I don't think it's a list. It's a givable district admin right thing. It was something we kind of did here at the RMS Center. So, all right, we'll take action to one. If we find the list, we'll give it to you. Two, if we find the list, we'll contact the TMO. Hey, maybe updating the procedures on that specifically because things have changed, and we'll go from there. So let's see here.
Sounds good. Thank you.
PII admin, yeah, because I can't even check that on my side as a system admin. So I think that's something that gets checked on at the RMS Center here on the back end.
Yep, I think you're right, because
Yeah,
I had the
that-
same issue where I had somebody have that issue, and I was like, well, I have to figure out who the person is that can uncheck this because it's not me.
Yeah. So Karen, that also answers your question too. Is we used to, the old PMO used to have, or the previous PMO used to have a list on their SharePoint of the PII administrators, and if you don't see the PII dates, usually that means they're using a CAT card. If you do see the dates, that usually means they're not using a CAT card. So if they do have a CAT card, that should be blank for the most part, unless they were part of some old training program that we had with PII, and the date may still be there. But it should not show for CAT card users, only for non-CAT card users. Hopefully that answers your question. If not, let us know.
Hey, Paul.
Yeah.
So I did actually find the old link that used to have a list of all of the PII admins. I posted it in the chat in response to a question. I do not know if it currently works or not, but it is in there.
Must be
You
on
can
the
test it
VPN.
out. If it works,
Okay.
great. If it doesn't, yeah, we'll have to work with the TMO to get that up and going.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Okay.
just for your awareness, I tried typing it in, and it says I can't reach that page. So
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah, we need to take action then on that one because I'm guessing if any of those dates go off, it's going to be difficult to change that. So I personally would vote for anybody who's a district admin should be able to change that. So that's my opinion. We'll see what the new TMO says.
oh, my bad. I actually typed in the website wrong. So I did actually get to that website, but it goes to the regular TMO website.
Oh, okay. It says DPS.mil. Interesting.
Gotta make sure you put the S after pages, site pages.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Cool. So those of you on this call, we will take action to meet with the TMO on some new PII guidance, whether or not they want to continue doing that, how to update the list and whatnot. So we'll get back to you all on that one. That's a good question. Oh wow, we're at the end, huh?
Yes.
Didn't even see that. That went by pretty quick. So, all right. So the next slide, I think, is some helpful links on, how to get started with RMS, helpful videos on specific topics. We have our YouTube channel there at the bottom. This specific video, give us a few days to get that up there when I say a few days, we have 5 days usually to do video editing on it and then put it up on the website. But due to the holidays, you might want to give us a few extra days on that one. If you have any questions, when you do put in a Jira Service Desk ticket, I would if it was me and I was you guys as a district or office admin, I would state that in the ticket, because we here don't usually have a list of who's who. So when you do put in a ticket, feel free to say, hey, I'm the district administrator for Omaha district, or I'm, whatever. And that usually helps our help desk staff go, hey, this person's going to probably have a question that's very difficult, and we're going to have to send it up the chain to tier 2, tier 3. So, if you do have problems with any of that, definitely let us know and we'll help you out. But the idea behind these train the trainers, we're going to have 4 of these, and this is the first one, and this is the most basic one, right? We go over, hey, here's how RMS is set up, here's how RMS works in the background, here's some basic information that you guys probably know a little bit about already. The next train the trainers, we're going to be covering far more advanced topics such as progress replacement, finances, other things. We've been working with the TMO on a list of topics that you guys will find hopefully interesting and will be fairly engaging in terms of the complexity and information required. We'll probably need some of your guys' help as well to discuss this, because we all know every district does things a little bit differently. So hopefully you guys found this helpful. If you know somebody who's a district admin or a local admin, or an office admin, and you think they'd benefit from this, we'll try to get the YouTube link out to you sooner rather than later. You can send this off to them. They can watch the recording of this, and say next week you have a question. You're like, hey, I meant to ask this question. Feel free to put in a ticket, mention that you're a part of this webinar, and we'll do our best to answer.
One note about PII training dates. So if you're in a user's staff record and you notice their PII date needs to be updated, the only people who can update those dates are the PII admins. Those are the only ones. So you'll have to find out who the PII admin is and have them do that. You can also contact us, say you're a district, let us know that you're the district admin for the district and you need to know who the PII admin is for your district. We can definitely look that up since the list is not available online. Back to you. Sorry.
Oh, no, good. Yeah, and thank you very much for your questions. We definitely appreciate your questions. One, it helps us kind of find out what you guys are thinking, what problems you're hitting. Some of the questions that you have also help us when it comes time to relook at some of these topics as well. So no matter the difficulty or whatnot, definitely let us know if you have questions, or even next week after. It doesn't have to be during the webinar discussion. As district admins, office admins, you guys deal with a lot of stuff that, involves RMS users. So when we can make your life easier, it oftentimes makes our lives easier as well. So, if you're encountering a problem, chances are another district administrator in another district is encountering the same problem. So if we can identify those things and fix them, all of a sudden the experience for everyone is much better. So definitely appreciate you guys' time. We know you guys also field a lot of questions from users. You do training as well. So we definitely appreciate your work and your help making RMS better. So thank you all very much for your time as well joining this. And when we get this video out, feel free to send this out to anyone who you think might benefit from it. And with that, I think I'll do one last call for questions. And if we don't have any, we'll let you guys go back to your day. Don't see. Yeah. All right. So thank you guys very much. I hope you have a happy holidays and safe week and a happy new year. We'll see you guys in 2023. And again, if you have any questions after this, feel free to ask them. We'll see you guys before 2023 too. So thank you all very, very much. We appreciate your time.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.